Hey everyone, so in last 10-15 years, everybody is talking about big data. And this is true. Like every second person is just talking about data, because we all know, I mean, just 10-15 years back, the profile which was really hot in the market, that was software engineering, web development, right? But now in the industry, if you are part of it, you are closely following it, you definitely know that everybody is talking about data. They used to talk about profiles, right? Even the job profiles prior to the big data, we were talking about software engineering only. Now even there are hot job profiles in the market. Let's say data engineering, data scientist, machine learning engineering, and data analyst, business analyst, and many more. So people are talking about it. That's why big data is something which is basically growing in the market, and also has become the hot topic in the industry in terms of the job, in terms of the compensation, in terms of the growth in the tech side. So data is the future of tech itself, and today that's what we will be talking about. First we will try to understand what's the big data on a higher level, and after that how this big data thing is actually helping the industries and helping different companies to take their decisions and basically to improve their business. And after that we'll talk about some 2-3 very unique case studies to let you know that how big data has helped those kind of enterprises, and how those enterprises are actually using big data, leveraging big data in order to solve some complex problems and even improving their businesses. So first let me tell you what is big data actually. So probably with the name big data, you might be thinking big data would be something which is quite big, right? We also know the normal data. So first let me tell you the impact of data in our day-to-day activities. So how you can actually relate, data is everywhere nowadays. I mean, it's part of your day-to-day activities. Whatever you are doing, data is involved there. You are wearing smartwatch, data is there. You are using your mobile phone, data is there. You are even using your Wi-Fi's networks, data is there. You are listening music, data is there. You are ordering food, data is there. And that's why it has become really important for everyone to understand data really well, because this phrase is really popular nowadays. Data is the new oil of the industry, and that's definitely true. So talking about the big data, it's not a plain word, or there isn't any kind of very straightforward definition which you can say yes, this is the particular definition which describes the big data, right? Okay, so three V's are there which actually defines the big data. First is volume. So what do we mean by the volume? It's definitely the amount of data we are processing nowadays. And let me tell you, right, in this past of 10 years, data volume is growing like a crazy speed. I mean, we would have known about the KBs, MBs, GBs. Now the data volume is basically like terabytes, petabytes, hexabytes, gigabytes, right? It's enormous, right? The data volume every day, it is growing like a crazy speed. And why it is happening? Because of the ease of the internet access. Nowadays internet is something which is playing a very important role in the growth of this massive amount of data. And volume you can even understand. Let's take an example of social media websites, right? Facebook, Instagrams, WhatsApp, whatever is happening there, that is data. Every single activity is data. You like something, right? You, let's say, liked some of the post, so those likes will be counted. You actually see those numbers increasing. Somebody liked, somebody commented. So whatever they have written, that is a data, right? And those platforms are capturing it and doing analysis on top of it, and that's what it is actually helping them to grow. So volume is basically the storage or the amount of data in terms of the measurable units, let's say KBs, MBs, GBs, terabytes, petabytes. Second is the velocity is basically speed of the data. So the velocity, what you can say, basically the speed in which data is actually growing. And that's what nowadays, let's say the bank transaction, you transfer some money via the UPI, okay? So that is happening in a very real time. Even it will take just fraction of seconds to complete the transaction. And there would be another processing as well, the batch processing, where data will first collect till some threshold value, and after that we will be processing it. So here nowadays, in this era of internet, obviously things are quite in the real time. Whatever is happening, we can see its impact, we can see its value. That is something which is actually a very very important factor of the data volume. In a more real time way you are capturing the data, the more amount of data you are capturing as well. So these are the two things. Third is the variety. So variety also very very important, right? The different kinds of data we are processing. Okay, so earlier probably what we would have thought, like let's say just go back 10-20 years, right? What we would have thought, only let's say textual matter, right? PDFs, okay, books, whatever text is written there, that is the only data. No, data is not like that. Nowadays the definition of data has changed a lot. And in terms of the big data, if I say, so variety is something, basically the different types of data we are processing. So in big data we have three things. First is the structured data. Structured data is very clean, like row, columns. Okay, so for an example you can say, let's say you have a data of students, they will have some, let's say, columns, student ID, student name. So this is kind of very structured way. You know how this structure will look like, just treat it like an Excel sheet, right? So this is the one way. Second way is basically a complete unstructured data. A best example is your audio files, right? Your video files. And why we are calling them as a unstructured data? Because when you will try to open it, you cannot read it. Let's say audio file, you can definitely listen it, but you cannot actually read it. And in contrast, when we talk about the structured data, it is like human readable. You can actually read it, what that data means. And third, we let's say talk about the semi-structured data. So it is a hybrid version where you can somehow identify what is the data, but it is not completely structured, very flexible. Sometimes you can add some attributes, you can even remove. So the very good example is JSON, XML. These are the file formats which basically are the type of semi-structured data. So this is something, right? In a cumulative definition, these three properties are very important to understand big data. And now we'll move on to the next part, like how the big data is actually helping different companies to take their decisions and to improve their businesses. So honestly speaking, big data can help any company in 5 different ways. So first, making better business decisions. Second, understanding your customers. Third, delivering smart services and products. Fourth, improving business operations. Fifth, generating income. So let's talk about all these 5 ways one by one. So first is basically making better business decision. So what does it mean and how big data is helping in that part? So let's take an example. Let's say you are an e-commerce website which is selling some products, but in order to improve in your business, if you don't have the past data points, if you don't have any sort of historical data so that you can compare how much earnings you did in last quarter and how much you have earned in this quarter, and if you don't know about those percentage of profits, losses, and many other matrices, useful matrices, then probably you won't be able to understand whether you are moving in a right direction in your business or moving in a wrong direction in your business. So that's why those important matrices, that historical data computation and those historical data comparison can help these companies to take their business decisions really well. And second point, we will talk about understanding your customers. So nowadays every company which is basically product and customer oriented, so be it the food delivery services, let's say, be it any e-commerce platform, be it the any kind of let's say OTT platform, they are definitely customer centric. And why customer centric? Because everything is dependent on them, and if they are not able to understand their customer really well, probably they are not going to survive in the market. For these kind of companies which are product and customer centric, they will definitely capture all the activities done by their customers on their platform. And this is the really important part for these companies, because based on those things they can definitely identify what is the actual need of this and that customer, and that is basically behavioral understanding of customers, and this is really important for the product based companies. And third is basically delivering smart services and products. So when, let's say, you understand your customers really well, so always for the better retention of the customers and better loyalty, you will always try to deliver smart things, right, which is basically liked by different customers, and you will try to innovate on that. You will try to add different flavors on top of that, because now you have understood your customer, what is his and her taste, and what kind of behavior he is doing, right? Based on the complex AI ML algorithms, you can take those decisions and recommend some really good products, really smart services, which can be really useful for the customer, and it will add more in your revenue and more in the company growth. Fourth is basically improving the business operations. Now if again we go back to like 20-30 years back, then most of the things were obviously dependent on the manual side, be it the manufacturing, be it the factories, whatever, right? Like so many big plants, let's say automobile machineries, heavy machineries, okay. Obviously this part data has changed a lot of the things in this section, be it the transportation, be it the automobile sector, and be it the business operations, and how it is improved because of the automation, robotics. And what is that? It is definitely again the data. These machines are something which learns from the data, they identify the patterns, they become so smart that they can do the things really fast, they can identify things quickly. And that's what automation and robotics is, and very important in the kind of domains where which are actually dependent on the supply chain, right? Because whenever there will be a huge demand, they need to develop the things, they need to create the things in a very quick span of time. If they are completely depend on the manual efforts, then obviously they will lose their customers, and they will lose their revenues as well. So the last point will be generating an income, and this point is obviously dependent on the above four which I have mentioned. Because if everything is sorted, your operations is doing good, you know your customers really well, you are delivering smart services product, you are taking smart decisions, business decisions, then these four factors cumulative will generate a great source of income, great revenue, great growth factor in any of the enterprise and business. So these were some 5 important ways where companies are using big data to improve their businesses and their growth. So now I'll be sharing some interesting case studies related to big data by different companies. And first is definitely Netflix, your favorite, my favorite as well, the best OTT platform. So how this Netflix is actually leveraging the big data part, and how you can see the actual use of big data there. Let's suppose you are the first consumer of the Netflix. For the very first time you logged onto their platform, you took the subscription, and you are someone who loves, let's say, action movies, right? Action web series. And for the very first time you just watch any random action movie on their platform, right? You watched it, let's say 30-40 minutes, and then paused it. Then you tried to explore any other let's say action movie, right? And you again, let's say, watched it for next 60-65 minutes, and you kept on doing it. And let's assume you really liked some of the action movies so much, so that you again came back to their platform and like just rewatch those movies. So what all things Netflix would have tried to capture, right? Not only one metrics, there are a couple of things, because you did a lot of activities on their platform, and this is the actual data for the Netflix. So next time, probably after 3-4 days, when you will again log in onto their platform, you might see, oh wow, there are some wonderful suggestions of new action movies. But did you try to think that how Netflix knows that you only like action movies so much, and they are giving you so many suggestions? And that's happened because of the your activities on their platform, right? So how this is happening, again based on some complex AI ML algorithms, they are trying to build some really cool recommendation engine. This is the keyword, recommendation, because Netflix itself recommending newly launched action movies, or basically let's say some top rated action movies to you, because they know your taste, they understand their customers really well. And that's how the Netflix is like doing more and more customization, and probably giving some of the best services to their customers. And how this was actually happening, again let me just repeat, you did some activities, they were capturing everything, how many times you played a movie, what kind of movies you watched, how many ratings you given to those sort of movies, right? So everything will be captured by the Netflix, and as a cumulative result for every individual customer. And when you just add this data, it becomes enormous, because across the globe people are just accessing Netflix for different kind of things. And you can understand, right, every person has a different taste of music, movies, and Netflix is actually doing it in a custom way, right? Because it understands every customer's behavior based on their activities. So somebody may like, let's say, thriller or drama, and somebody may like the action. So every individual person is getting smart recommendation of movies, web series based on their activities and based on their interest. So here you can see the actual use of the data. And now second interesting use case, I'll talk about the ride hailing service. So whenever you want to travel right from point A to point B, and let's say you are in a metro city, definitely you will look for a cab option if you don't own any kind of vehicle. So whenever we talk about the ride hailing services, the very common name and the popular name is the Uber. So how Uber is actually leveraging, and they are leveraging it in a very smart way, right? So again, under the hood, Uber is also leveraging those complex AI ML algorithms in order to understand their customer, and most important, the supply chain and demand related thing. So if any of you is a customer of these kind of cab services like Uber, so obviously you would have traveled also. And if you can even remember some of your worst cases, let's say you are like stuck in your office because it was raining really heavily, all right? So what will happen at that time, because lots of people will be there in that tech park, who are desperately trying to reach their home because it's heavily raining there. And at this moment, when you would have tried to book cab from Uber, definitely you will see a sudden increase in the fare prices for the same distance which you were traveling on daily basis. So that's how even the Uber is leveraging those data points, because they know their supply and demands, they know based on the geographic locations, right? And that is the point where Uber is taking best advantage of the peak hours, because out of 20 people, obviously 2 3 4 5 people will be there who are willing to pay 250 or 300 instead of 100, because they want to reach their homes as soon as possible. And that is the reason. And now I would like to talk about third interesting case study, which is actually related to the aviation sector. And this case study is actually really close to my career experience as well, because I have worked in the aviation sector as well. And that's like, again, as a data engineer, so I have solved the complex big data related problem for the aviation sector. And this project was basically for one of the leading US airlines company. So what challenge they were facing, basically they wanted us to build a kind of solution which gives a 360 view of a customer's itinerary, right? Because whenever, let's say, a customer books a flight from point A to point B, right, there will be n number of events will be happening during this completion of the journey, starting from the ticket booking and reaching to the destination, right? And there could be multiple scenarios when a customer travel from source A to source B, like even seat change can happen, right? You booked something and then there could be a seat change event, and many other events can happen. So that company wanted us to build a big data solution which can actually give them a 360 view of the entire journey or the entire itinerary of a customer who traveled from A to B, because on daily basis they were capturing a numerous amount of data, terabytes, petabytes, from different vendors, even from their website, whatever, let's say, happening, for everything they had the data. And this resultant solution which we provided them, it was definitely based on some complex logic, complex big data processing which we were processing daily, so that their customer service agents can see the entire itinerary of any customer, and how this will actually help that company to basically serve their customers in a better way, and basically giving the best experience to their customer. And why that solution was able to give best experience to those customers, let's say I am a frequent traveler of any XYZ airline, and some random day when I was traveling, some unwanted events happen, right? And for that I feel I should be reimbursed, or I should get some kind of refund from the company. So for that I will definitely try to reach out their customer service, their support, and I will explain my situation. But how that customer service agent can respond to those customers. He or she should definitely know what all things happen. Granting any sort of compensation, he she needs to verify whatever you are saying, whether it happened or if there kind of any information gap. If everything is matching, everything happened according to the customer, obviously that request of refund can raise to the leadership, and after the approval, that refund can be provided to the customer. And obviously this kind of service will make customers always happy, and obviously your customers will be loyal towards your airlines. So now I hope you guys understand the big data part in a clear way, and also in the real world how these kind of companies, big tech companies, are leveraging the big data part in order to improve their business, their growth, their customers and everything. So every aspect is really important for these kind of companies. And also I have also talked about some interesting case studies. These kind of case studies will definitely give you a better vision, and it will also generate some level of spark in your head, so that you can deep dive into the big data and understand how things are actually working and how these companies are trying to solve some of the complex customer related problems. So that's what we had in this video. So if you like this sort of information about the big data, and if you're a big data enthusiast, then make sure to like this video and also share your opinion. And if you know any interesting case study of big data, mention it in the comment section. We will definitely pick it up in the next time. And if you're new to the channel, then make sure to subscribe as well.